All right, y'all, welcome to the show. I have a really fun one for you today. So, in just a second, we're going to lead with Biden's historically terrible polling. I've never seen anything like this, and I've been covering politics for a long time. And in fact, it even surpasses how bad Jimmy Carter's numbers were, and his were horrendously bad, and he got draxed. So, a lot to say about that. Then we'll get to Hillary Clinton was protested and heckled during a speech she gave. That's fun. The DNC is effectively trying to ban RFK from running even as an independent. So, they mess around from within the party when he was running as a Democrat, but now he's running outside of the party, and they're still trying to put the kibosh on it completely. There's a lot to say about that. Then later on, we'll get to, I don't know how many of you guys remember Eric Prince, but he's the head of the private military organization, a mercenary group called Blackwater. It's sort of like a Christian American military. And he came out in an interview recently, and he said the quiet part out loud about what his goal and his purpose in U.S. empire is. You're not going to want to miss that clip because, it's one of those moments where it's like, oh, so this is how the sausage is made. Perhaps we haven't even evolved since, the old school days of the British Empire marauding through India. Wait until you hear it. We'll talk about that. Then we also have Wolf Blitzer throws up on air, and the faces he makes are hilarious. Even though my heart goes out to him, it was kind of funny. All right, so we'll talk about all that and more. Everybody do me a big favor. Please subscribe to the channel. It helps out massively in the algorithm. It doesn't cost you anything. We're trying to get to that 2 million sub number. Then we're trying to get to that 10 million sub number. I think that's the next time, excuse me, that I get to add one of these bad boys. All right, so let's dive into it here. So NBC News asked voters how the Biden and Trump administrations meshed with their expectations, okay? Look at these results. Only 14% said Biden is better than expected. 42% say worse than expected. Trump, 40% said he was better than expected, and only 29% said worse than expected. When you look at independents specifically, only 6% said Biden was better than expected. 6%. 52% said worse than expected. Just so you understand, independents are a very important part of a general election. Massively important. That's not good. For Trump, it was 38% of independents said better than expected, and 18% said worse than expected. So, guys, this is poll number 7,312 to add to the list of the other polls I've given you that should quite honestly keep you awake at night. It looks like we're in a position where even if Biden makes a surge, he can still lose comfortably. Like, he could have a 5-point surge because of whatever, fill in the blank, some policy change, some, marketing strategy, etc., and he could still lose. That's where we're at right now. Just to refresh your memory here, Latino Americans, Biden was down 4 points to Trump in one poll. Biden had about 90% support among the black community. That was down to 63% support. Young people, this is another demographic Democrats have to win in order to win the election. There was one poll that had Trump up 4 points on Biden. Arab Americans and Muslim Americans. He had massive support among that group, and then it dropped all the way to 17% in the wake of him arming and funding and backing Netanyahu's genocidal campaign in Gaza. Every single day, we're hit with a new slate of polls that's just like, oh, he's screwed. This is hopeless. So the most important one, though, and this is the one that should stick in your mind the most, is that in the swing states, he's losing in 7 of the 7. In some polls, to be fair, it's only 6 of the 7, but more realistically and in the average, it's 7 of the 7. So again, I don't want to just bring this stuff up casually. I want to go ahead and provide the numbers for you. So here, let's look at the general election national numbers, Trump versus Biden. So in the average, Trump is up 1.9 percentage points. Now, again, I want to reiterate, in order for a Democrat to win the Electoral College in modern American history, they've had to win the presidency, win the popular vote, I should say, by 3 or 4 points. So the fact that Biden's down 2 in the average really means he's down 5 or 6 because he needs to win by 3 or 4 in order to win. So the most recent polls, you have Trump up 1, Trump up 5, Biden up 1. That poll came out on January 29th, it was January 29th to February 1st. Trump plus 2, Trump plus 5, Trump plus 4. The best poll for Biden in a long time has been the one that was released on January 29th from Quinnipiac, where Biden was actually up 6. Then we have Trump plus 1, tie, Trump plus 5, Trump plus 6. So these are not good numbers. So this is what it looks like here, just to show you the lines. Not good. Now, you might look at this and say, well, hold on, Kyle. You got to include RFK. And in fact, in reality, you should maybe include RFK, Jill Stein, Cornel West, anybody and everybody who's actually going to run. That's true, but also little asterisks by that conversation because we genuinely don't know how many ballots these various candidates are going to get on. It is very, very difficult to get on various ballots. I think the Libertarians, a Libertarian candidate will probably be on the ballot, and Jill Stein, Green Party candidate, will probably be on a ballot. As far as Cornell goes and RFK goes, I genuinely don't know because it's so difficult to get on the ballot. They make it almost impossible. So we don't know for sure what's going to happen and how many ballots they'll be on. But just to break it down for you, if you do Trump versus Biden versus Kennedy, you have Trump plus 5 in the average. Trump plus 5 in the average. Trump plus 6, Trump plus 8 were the last 2 polls. You had Biden plus 2 in that Quinnipiac poll. I'm sorry, that's an older Quinnipiac poll. And Rasmussen one had Trump plus 8. So it would look like this. Trump 39%, Biden 34%, Kennedy 16.8%. Guys, red alert. I don't know how else to get this through to everybody. But I saved, honestly, the biggest number for the end here. This is the biggest number. Ready? Overwhelming majority of Americans think Biden is too old for another term. This is a poll that just came out. Listen to this number that I'm about to give you. An overwhelming majority of Americans think President Joe Biden is too old to serve another term, according to a new ABC News Ipsos poll. According to the poll conducted using Ipsos Knowledge Panel, 86% of Americans think Biden is too old to serve another term as president. 86%. 86%. I need you to sit there with that fact in your brain for a little bit. Let it swirl around. Let it marinate up there. 86%. That includes 59% of Americans who think both he and former President Donald Trump, the Republican frontrunner, are too old. So in other words, 86% say Biden's too old. 59% say, hey, you know what? Both of them are too old. And 27% who think only Biden is too old. So to be fair, this is a situation where a majority look at both and say, come on, wrap it up, dog. We're done here. But the number is significantly higher for Biden than it is for Trump. And of course, this is immediately after the terrible week that Biden had where he keeps pretending like he talked to people who died in 1996, a former French leader, a former German leader. He keeps retelling stories and putting the wrong names in there. He did a I'm not senile press conference where he proceeded to go full senile. He said he called Sisi the president of Mexico. Of course, Sisi is the president of Egypt. Look, if you're going to do an I'm not senile press conference, you can't go senile in that press conference, lest everybody around you keep it real with you and say, all right, dog, you got to wrap it up. So look, I'm at the point now, I've shared this with you guys previously, but I'm at the point now where I think it's incumbent upon Barack Obama, Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton, throw Michelle Obama in there, Jill Biden, they all, Hunter, throw Hunter in there. Why the fuck not? They all need to sit Joe down and be like, we love you. We respect you. We thank you for your service. You defeated Donald Trump. You know, the country owes you for that one. But let's keep it real. You should be on a beach in southern Florida, sipping a margarita and watching pickleball on TV. Okay? This is what you need to be doing. You got to wrap it up, dog. You got to wrap it up. But guys, I hate to say it, even in a scenario where you send the A-team to go try to talk sense into him, there's still a good chance he's like, no, I'm not going to do it. There are reports that anytime something adjacent to that topic is breached, he loses it. So I don't know, like, how are we supposed to deal with this? How are we supposed to deal with this when you have the special counsel report that basically said, yeah, Biden committed crimes by taking these classified documents. However, we're not going to charge him because he's a senile, well-meaning old man. How do you look at that and then go, another 5 years? That's what we want, another 5 years. I was the guy for the longest time saying, sorry, based on Biden's record, I'd rather have him versus any other generic corporate Democrat like a Pete Buttigieg, like a Kamala Harris, etc. You can pay, they're a dime a dozen. You guys all know these people. But having looked at the reality on the ground right now, that position of mine has changed. I would rather have a Kamala Harris or a Pete Buttigieg or any random Democratic governor, any schmuck in the country, to take his position because I don't have to worry about them surviving for 5 more years without their brain melting. This is where we're at. His brain is pudding. Who are we kidding? I don't think you're going to be able to gaslight the country. Guys, Donald Trump has 4 indictments and 91 criminal charges. And on a daily basis, he goes out there and does a little jig and a tap dance and says, I can't wait to be a dictator. Any Democratic candidate should be draxing that fool. But they're not. Why? Because perhaps the one thing that normie Americans are seemingly more put off by than the criminal charges is the incredibly old age thing. And look, do I wish that was the case? No. Does that matter that I don't wish that was the case? No, it doesn't matter. The normies have spoken. So we got to move on, man. We got to move on. But no, instead, I'm seeing into the future. 3 weeks into the future, I'm going to be doing another segment on this show where a new poll will have come out, and 93% of Americans say Biden's too old and he's got to step aside. Where's the line? What if literally 100% of Americans say he's too old, he needs to step down, and I will refuse to vote for him because he's way too old? Even in that scenario, the hubris that I'm seeing would, I think, lead Biden to be like, I'm going to run anyway, see what happens. Well, then at a certain point, I don't know if there's anything you can call it, but incredibly selfish and narcissistic. Look, if you agree with me that the most important thing we have to do, we have to defeat Trump. All the other talk about policy is fair game, it's legitimate. But when you look at a guy who tried to overthrow the last election and is promising to do it again, that's something I'm not going to roll the dice with. So given that reality, he's got to man up and step aside. I don't see any way around this, man. I don't see any way around this. But he hasn't. I don't know if he will. He's got an event with Barack Obama and Bill Clinton on March 28th where they're going to pretend like, it'll be Weekend at Bernie's where they pretend like everything's hunky-dory and he's doing great and he wasn't, just backstage trying to eat the chair he was sitting in. I don't know, man. I don't know. But I suspect that we're going to have another 3 or 4 different segments within the next 2 months where it's like, here are the polling numbers. Yet again, we are in historically terrible, uncharted territory. I'll give you one more. I mentioned Jimmy Carter earlier in this segment. Jimmy Carter had a 37 or 38% approval rating this point before his election when he got destroyed. What's Biden's? 33%. 33. I don't know what I'm supposed to do with that, man. I don't know. These are historically horrible polls, and no amount of shoving your head in the sand or scolding voters or trying to get people to overlook it, no amount of that is going to work. I don't think there's any amount of that that's going to work. And we're rearranging chairs on the deck of the Titanic. That's what it feels like right now. He's got to step aside. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop. And watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.